What's going on, everybody? Today was a choppy mess. Or was it? We're going to go over that. Give me 15 minutes of your time. We're going to recap the entire day. All right, starting off with ES here, we had a pretty nasty wick on the highs. You had a pretty strong move up early in the morning. It did look like it was going to be strong for most of the day. It tried to stay above Wednesday's high, traded into 6,000. Eventually, it did sell off. We're going to talk about what it looked like on order flow here in a little bit, but closed pretty weak. Closed below yesterday's high, closed below Tuesday's high, sweeping both of those highs. So tomorrow we have some pretty important data coming out in the morning. I would say if it's holding below 980 to 6,000 tomorrow, this is looking pretty weak, possibly seeing some high time frame sell pressure. Looking at NASDAQ, the sell-off wasn't as bad. You did close just barely above those local highs, closing above that kind of 500 support and resistance flip. But now we are gapping down just a little bit on the open of today. So same thing. Tomorrow, the data comes out pre-market. If we're trading below 600, below 500, I would say, after that morning data, then it's probably going to see some high time frame sell pressure throughout the day. Let's take a quick look at our trade plan and how it played out, and then we'll get into the recap. So today's trade plan we had holding above 96, looking for 6,012, looking for 6,021. We did hit that 12 level. We did not quite get to that 21 level. Now to the downside, because today was pretty choppy, pretty messy, we actually triggered our sell target down around 59.52, and we probably would have got down to our 59.09 if we had a few hours left on the day. So one target to the upside, one target to the downside. And let's go ahead and take a look. Actually, let's go to NASDAQ first, then we'll get into the recap. So NASDAQ above 800, we're looking for 922,000. We did hit 900. We did not get 22,000. Holding below 720, we're looking for 580. We did get that. And then 400, we did not get that. Once again, if we had two more candles on the 30-minute, another hour left on the day, we probably would have gotten that target as well. All right, let's take a look at what the heck happened today. So today, we had a couple of really good trades, to be honest. I know today looked ridiculously messy, especially on the 30-minute time frame. But the 1 minute, I repeatedly said this in Discord. I just kept finding myself looking at the 1 minute and like, wow, guys, this is actually trending really easily, really consistent trends, right? You weren't seeing a lot of chop on the 1 minute. You weren't constantly faking out the trend and going the other direction. It was staying in those trends pretty much every single time it went into a little micro trend on the 1 minute. Now, obviously, they reversed. But when it reversed, it wasn't a trap. It actually stayed in that trend that it reversed into. So if it was bullish, trended nicely. Reversed into a bearish trend, trended nicely. Well, we're going to show that here in a few minutes. But looking at the start of the day, we covered this on our morning stream. A lot of tape reading. We talked about on the morning stream from like what, 9:30 to like 10:30. Basically walked through how to read that all the way down. If we're looking at it back on the 30-minute candle, what were we looking for on the morning stream? Node by node, cluster by cluster. We basically just kept building nodes as we were falling. Built a node around like 82. We had a first node around 96. Fell down to a node around 77. 75, another one at 73, and then the major nodes started to build up at 65. This is where it got a little bit difficult. It got a little choppy. One great trade came out of this node. It was a rebound trade. So a rebound trade is when you have a very strong node or a very strong level, and you start to kind of break away from that level. You break through it. So in this case, we broke through it to the downside. And I just kept preaching on the morning stream about how these responsive sellers were in control. And what we look for when the responsive traders are in control, not the aggressive traders, we look for that sell pressure, in this case, sell pressure, obviously, because it was bearish. We look for that sell pressure on the pullback. We want to be a seller on the pullback, not the breakouts. That rebound trade was beautiful when you initially broke that node. And then you rebounded into it. You bounced back into it. You bounced back into 65. The rebound trade is on that bounce back. You could be a seller there. And you're not going for a lot. The rebound trades are just small scalps. You're looking for 5 points. You're looking for 3 points. You're looking for 7 points. Nothing crazy. This one from the 65 node gave you nearly 10 points. Gave you about 8 points. So let's recap that again. You broke through the level. You came back to retest it. 65 node. Instantly sold it. That's the rebound. You rebounded into it. You instantly sold it. You're not being greedy on these. You're just looking for that quick in and out. It gave you about 8 points. So anything 3 points, 5 points, whatever, you hit your target. Good job. And that pretty much happened multiple times. That wasn't just on that 65 node. You had a couple of rebounds there. You had a rebound on the 78 node. You had a rebound on the 70 node. But the really good one was that 65 node. And we called that one out live on the morning stream. So check that out if you guys missed it. That was around 9:56 to 9:57 a.m. Eastern time. Okay, after that, we had numerous bear flags in the VWAP. We had a couple of them. You almost had a bear flag in the VWAP around 10:05. You did have one beautifully on NASDAQ. So you had that bear flag, kind of like a rebound trade. You bounced back into VWAP, sold off of VWAP. So stop loss, very obviously, you could have just put it above VWAP, above the session VWAP, few points, targeting prior lows. You're always targeting prior lows on these bear flags in a VWAP. Okay. Stop loss above an important level, targeting a prior low. Alrighty? You didn't quite get it on ES. It kind of front ran that level. This is where the market structure started to shift a little bit. You started seeing higher lows. When those higher lows started to come in, those responsive traders were being threatened. And let me throw on my EMAs. I had them turned off. You had those responsive traders being threatened. And I said very clearly on stream, I was like, hey guys, if we do not take one more stab at this 60 level or even below 60, these aggressive sellers are done. You need to entice them with another stab downward, or they're just going to stop trading this. And that's what happened. We did not see that stab down to 60 or lower, so the aggressive sellers are like, all right, I'm done. I'm getting out of my position. And if they didn't get out of their position, they were forced out of their position because you saw that buy pressure start to come in. And when the buyers came in, that's what we call a cascade, right? The buyers are coming in because they want to open their positions. And then you have the sellers that were too stubborn to close their positions getting stopped out. What happens when a seller gets stopped out? They turn into a buyer. That's where you have that cascade. The new buyers are stepping in, the sellers are stepping out. So you cascaded that buy pressure into that VWAP. That created another bear flag in the VWAP. You had a great bear flag in the VWAP trade at 79, and it gave you about damn near 20 points. Prior low, target achieved, right? This one you really needed to get out of because that's when some headlines started to come out. And then basically for the rest of the day, it was just headline, 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 headline. Choppiness. This is when we entered a vertical distribution. So you backtested VWAP, bounced off of it. Backtested VWAP and the 24, bounced off of it. When you're trending like this with the 8 and 24 EMAs, that is typically a vertical distribution. Okay. And like I said, very clean trends on the 1 minute today. So basically all the way until 12 o'clock, which was right around here, you were just in a vertical distribution. You were trending to the upside, but it kept giving you little incentives, little signals for the sellers. It kept enticing the sellers here and there. And then finally, the sellers got what they wanted. The sellers got what they wanted around 12 o'clock. So what I always talk about when you see those vertical distributions, when you see those uptrends, You want to watch these prior nodes. These prior nodes act as support. So you want to see that back test of that prior node, and then you want to buy off of it. And we were doing that consistently. We were back testing prior nodes, bought off of it. Back tested prior node, bought off of it. But then, unfortunately, the buyers got absorbed. So you had a lot of buy pressure coming in around 06 to 07. They got absorbed. You lost those upper nodes. See you later. Sellers are in control. And then once again, like we said earlier, look at how clean that trend is. Very clean trend on the lower time frames today. If you guys haven't already, watch my 8 and 24 EMA video. I talk about using these EMAs in your trading for aggressive and responsive trading. And that was pretty much all you were today. You were just using those EMAs. Okay, so we kept trending downward, just protecting the nodes as we fell. Nothing crazy there. Then we started to bounce back. So as you started to lose those EMAs, if you were in that sell on the way down, you're out of that sell because the EMAs are now being taken out. You are now putting in higher lows. You put in a higher low right there at around 1 o'clock. You didn't have a higher low until around 105. Yeah, 105. 105 to 106. And then yet again, look at this one. Another bear flag into VWAP. This one wasn't as clean. You went through VWAP a little bit here. So if you would have traded this initially, let's say right here, around 115, you would have lost that trade. You bounced off the 80 EMA immediately. This is what stop losses are for. I think that's still a good trade. In hindsight, you lost it. No big deal. You would have lost that trade. And then you were trending up, still a vertical distribution. But then NASDAQ comes into play. And then NASDAQ gets close to VWAP. And then it starts to curl off. So you have that kind of rollover top. It doesn't do it in like the most clean way possible, but very obvious rollover. You're rolling over off of VWAP. So it's kind of a rollover top and a VWAP trap in one trade. Then you have that, or sorry, not a VWAP trap, bear flag into VWAP, excuse me. So on, speaking of VWAP trap, actually, this was a VWAP trap on ES. You broke through VWAP, but you did not have the bullish delta. Where was that? That was around 141. That was right here. You did not have the bullish delta maintaining that node. So it turned into a 30-minute sweep. They lost VWAP, and then it continued lower. Once again, beautiful trend. Once that trend began to break the EMAs, yet again, you're done. If you're selling that, you're out of the trade. The EMAs are being taken out because today is so trendy. And then you had like one more bear flag into VWAP, which was around 2:30 to 3 o'clock. And that was pretty much the last trade of the day. But all right, guys, that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed this recap. I know it's a little bit later in the day. Hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace, everybody.